4-3 kind of?
I think, for the D-line, it's a big transition, to be honest with you. I do think they're starting to understand some of the concepts and the techniques that we're trying to take with them. We've had 4 practices. I think for 3 of them, again, they're trying to do what we're asking them to do. But it is for the D-line in particular, it is a drastic change with both the 2-back sets and the 1-back sets.
How about the linebackers? Not as much? Or?
Linebackers, the biggest transition, to be honest with you, is some of them are playing positions they haven't played in the past. They've been an outside backer in the 3-4, and now all of a sudden they're really all inside backers. We're running, a little bit of stuff that puts them in an outside backer mindset, but some of those guys that were outside backers are now defensive ends in our scheme. So there's some transition there, particularly from the 2-back fits. And in the secondary, we're playing not necessarily drastic changes in concepts, but playing different techniques and some different rules with it. So overall, though, like I said, I think for 4 practices in, we've had 3 days that I thought that we saw improvement.
Is it harder from the 3 to the 4 or the 4 to 3?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I talked to your safeties, and they said in your defensive scheme, they get a little bit more freedom. They have a little bit more control over what the defense is doing in terms of making calls and stuff?
I don't know if they have more freedom. I would say they have to communicate a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I think that so much of what we're trying to do is make them understand the concepts and the scheme, not them memorize a play or a rule, but understand the big picture. And when it comes to concepts, they do. They've got to be the guys to run the show. They're the quarterback, so to speak, from a coverage standpoint, and in some cases in how we play our 2-back run fit. So, for those guys, I don't know if they got more control, but they're certainly the communicators of the defense, yes.
When you look at it, though, you bring back 2 very experienced safeties. I think they have like 62 combined starts between KPL and Trent. Is that a luxury for you to have in making this switch?
Sure it is. The 2 things about those 2 kids is not just that they're starters and not just that they're experienced, but they're good kids. And they're smart football players. They're leaders, and I think those 2 guys really do a good job of stepping up and again, trying to lead, trying to motivate, and trying to push kids. And they're competitors. Both those kids are big-time competitors. And so I think that's where those 2 really help us and are advantageous for us, more so than just having played a bunch of downs. The other guy that I think, has done a decent job, again, for 3 out of the 4 days would be Nick Januska. He's shown drastic improvement from what I saw on the film last year, and I've been impressed with him.
It was funny, I talked to a couple of them, they described it kind of like this early going as a love-hate relationship.
With me?
With you, both ways, they said.
Yeah.
They said they're pretty sure there's days you love them, days you hate them, and vice versa. Is that just kind of going through, learning a new system, and getting your concepts down? I
think that there's a large transition, with a lot of them. Obviously, you've got to be able to build relationships, and kids have got to trust you. And kind of like I've told them, that trust goes both ways, and we've got to feel like we can trust them as well. So I think that, being a coach just a little bit on the edge and fiery, I think that they're trying to get adjusted to what exactly that means sometimes. If I hate them for that 3 seconds or for the entire day, I said it's usually just that one play. Because the next second I try to be positive with it, but that's kind of where it's at, I think.
What are the reasons you're such a firm believer in the 4-3?
Well, I think like anything else, it's some of it is that's what I've done. It's what I've been a part of for a long time. It's something that I feel the most comfortable with, and there are going to be situations where when we look up, we're going to look very similar to how they did last year. That's not going to change. Some of it depends on personnel, some of it depends on down the distance. But from a 4-3 perspective, it's where I feel like with the way that the offenses have changed and transitioned, where we're having to make the least amount of transition within our scheme. That's really the biggest difference.
How does a guy like a Steve O'Michael, who came in here as an outside linebacker, how's a guy his size? Can he play D-end in this system?
Sure, he's a guy that can rush to the pass rusher, and a guy that can play off the edge. But the beauty to me of the 4-3 is you don't have to sit there and try to recruit. To play in a game for a 2-deep, 6 300+ pounders, you're not finding that. You're trying to find guys with foot speed, guys that can make plays. You're trying to find more outside backer type bodies, and if you're worried about being in a situation where you're getting undersized, then you make adjustments with your scheme. But you can do that by lining a guy in 5. You can do it by lining in a 4-eye. You know, you can make those changes within your scheme. So I think that that's what the ability of it gives us, and we're not, you know, having to change drastically from a 2-back set to a 1-back set. We get to play what we play and get good at it.
Talk a little bit about your philosophy that you want out of this defense. You looking for an aggressive group that's creating a lot of turnovers? Because it hasn't been that unit in a couple of years, but it was yours.
Well, I think this. I think if you're going to play defense, there's 2 things you got to be. You got to be tough, all right? And toughness, physical toughness, and mental toughness. That's the first thing. If you're going to be great on defense, you got to have that. You got to have some competitive suckers. You know, I mean, defensively, you got to be able to have people that want to get to the ball. And if you try to have too many schemes, if you try to have too many adjustments, then they're not going to play fast. And defenses that don't play fast, they wind up having guys run for 60 and 70 yards, and you give up big plays. And I think at the end of the day, if you can have some toughness and you can be competitive, that's going to create you in a situation where you're stopping the run game, which is our number one thing, and keep balls from going over your head. And when you get in situations to call dogs, now you call it, and I think all that carries over. But if we're not physically tough, mentally tough, if we're not being able to play fast because we know what we're doing, then we got to pull back on what we're doing scheme-wise, because that's got to be where it starts defensively.
How the linebackers looking? I know you lost some talent from last year and you didn't catch them. But break in some new starters.
I've seen those guys on tape from last year, the 2 linebackers that we lost, and they were certainly good players. But I think from an overall depth standpoint, I think we've got good players. I think that. Coach English has done a really good job with that group, first and foremost. Second of all, I think he's done a good job of taking the right kids and recruiting and been smart about who he's taking. So I think that there are certainly good players and playmakers in that group, and I think there's some young depth in that group as well. Yeah. Some guys that are true freshmen or true sophomores in that group that are going to be good players down the line as well.
Talking about your communication, you have that in the hands of your safeties. Is that because they can see everything in front of them?
Well,
like the communication working forward?
A lot of it is because of the coverage that you play, and to be honest with you, and kind of what your base is. But at the end of the day, your safeties and your linebackers have got to be the guys that are your communicators through the whole D-line. We probably put a little bit more on our D-line than a lot of people do, but I think that communication's got to go across the board as fast as offenses go today. That's why you see explosive plays if somebody's not sure what the call was, not sure what gap they have, not sure the formation. So we're trying to get as many people talking as we can.
Yeah. You said you're a fiery guy. Defense is supposed to be the emotional side of the ball. Is that what you want translated?
Yes, without question. I want them playing on the edge. I want a coach on the edge. I want our coaches and when you do that, usually you play more aggressive. Usually play a little bit harder. Usually you're a little bit more competitive, and hopefully they're a little bit tougher too. And that's what we're trying to create and continue to develop.
Do you have, obviously, the switch from 3-4 to 4-3? Do you have the guys you need, or do you have to recruit some different type players over the long term?
No, we've got. I mean, I think that again, it's not based on individuals. I've seen defenses that were really successful and played good defense that, they were just blue-collar guys. And I think as long as we can take that mentality, there's certainly some good players in the group. And there's certainly, Coach English, again, has done a good job with those guys of recruiting good players and developing good players. But for us, we got to be a blue-collar group. If we try to get into this guy's this or that guy's that, then we're not going to play very much. We're really not.
Do you have the bodies on the defensive line for the depth that you're going to want in terms of rotation?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, again, the thing that we're trying to create is foot speed and trying to make plays with the D-line. Again, the philosophy change for those guys and technique change is drastic. But I think as long as they continue to fight and continue to, Coach Logo's done a good job with those guys. And as long as they continue to improve, I think we'll be close where we need to be by day 15.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
When you look at, because last year the defensive line they were supposed to take up bodies and allow the linebackers to flow and make plays. You're talking like you want them to make plays, not so much. So is that the big switch for them? Is you're expecting them to be more productive than maybe they were last year?
Yes, and we hope that our scheme and our concepts will put them in the ability to do that.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.